Hi there, my name is Aaron Short. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm reacting to this kind of surprise news about the new Sheeran looper pedals that just got announced. This will be a fairly short live stream. If you're watching live, thank you so much for joining me. Rather than make a recorded video, I thought I would just do this as a live stream. I'm going to talk through my thoughts about what I know so far with this new series of looper pedals. And if you have any questions related to the topic, please do ask me in the live chat, and I'll answer you if I can. So basically, I heard about this a while ago. I heard about these pedals coming from Ed Sheeran. At least there was a rumor on some website somewhere. The weird thing is we just had NAMM a month ago. So I'm surprised these weren't announced along with NAMM. It seems like a few products weren't quite ready for NAMM and are now being announced. Another product that was announced today was the EV PA speaker that also looks very cool. But I was wondering if Headrush would have something new, and this is obviously what they've been working on. So I say Headrush. These are the Ed Sheeran looper pedals. A bit like what he's done with Loudon guitars. He's got the Sheeran guitars that are made by Loudon. These are the Sheeran loopers that are made basically by InMusic, and InMusic owns Headrush. So if you remember, Headrush made a looper board. I actually had one a few years ago. It was a big board, loads of loops on it, could store stuff, really big, really heavy, also had some built-in effects as well. So this is kind of the replacement. They discontinued that. They brought out some more guitar products since. I did try the Headrush Prime. I actually noted that the looper only had one track in that device, and that's why I didn't want to use that. I currently use a Voice Live 3 Extreme. I like having a pedal that is all-in-one effects and looping as well. So I knew that wouldn't work for me. And then my first thought about seeing these new pedals is that maybe they won't work for me, but I still think they're worth talking about. Because anytime a new looper is released onto the market, it makes me happy because we don't get enough of that kind of stuff for the solo guitarist, right? So I'm going to jump over to the desktop and show you what I'm talking about, in case you haven't seen these yet. So this is the Looper X. There's two different versions. There's a smaller 2-button version and then this big version. First, straight away, you notice the kind of relationship to the Headrush brand. It's different, but you've got that big touch screen, which is a great thing, I think, on a looper. My biggest complaint with Boss loopers is they don't have this. They have a very small LCD. They're great. They have some great functionality, but having that touchscreen on the device is great. I always say I wish there was an app as well, or at least a Windows editor. I don't know if there is. I haven't seen the manual for this yet. I assume there isn't. I assume you do everything on device. But anyway, let's just talk about what we know so far. So the foot switches are great. If I show you the old looper board, which is this one here, so it had more foot switches. They were smaller foot switches, and therefore there were more of them. But many people that loop don't like these kind of foot switches. They want foot switches that are more comfortable to press. There's two things that loopers want. One is big buttons, which you can see the Sheeran looper board has. Massive buttons that you're not going to miss. And also they want them to be quiet. All right. So I don't remember if these ones were quiet or not, but the look of the new ones is certainly that they're going to be soft press. So I think that's a great improvement. I really do. I love the fact they've kept the ins and outs on the back. By the looks of it, we still have the 4 inputs, which is great. The headphones, the auxiliary input as well. The outputs, there's 4 outputs, and 2 of those are XLR. And there's MIDI as well, and USB. Not a regular power supply, which I would much prefer, especially on a pedal of this size. But there we go. Can't have it always. One thing that I noticed is the price, $1,300. I really think anyone looking for a looper like this is going to be okay with the price because it's a very specialized thing. But having said that, the looper board I think was around $800 or $900, and when I got mine, I mean, can't really compare it. When I got mine, it was on blowout at $500. That's not a realistic way to look at pricing, of course. But the Sheeran is $1,300. Now, as David just pointed out in the chat, this has a bunch of effects in there. I'm not able to see exactly what the effects are. I imagine they're ported over from the Headrush line of pedals, but I'm not exactly sure yet. But he pointed out there's auto harmonies. He also pointed out that I said I didn't like the auto harmonies in the Headrush Prime as much as I do in the Voice Live 3. But I really think with something like this, the effects are more of an afterthought. I think the reason people are going to buy this is as a looper. And those big buttons that are easy to press, the 4 levels there for each loop that you can easily adjust, or input or output, you can easily adjust things. Even that big encoder knob can be pressed with your foot as another switch. So this is really for the professional looper for sure. Now, I am more interested in the other one. There's actually 2. And I'll tell you why. Oh, it's not Headrush, it's Sheeran. Okay, so I think this is cool. This is $300, which is very affordable. And I'll show you the competition. We've got the RC500 at $350. This is a cool pedal. This is what I recommend to most people that want a small battery-powered two-track looper. This has 3 buttons and the sliders. I love this pedal. It's also got full MIDI control. This is a bit more pro, but that screen is just a little bit annoying. There's no touch screen. The menus are annoying. If Boss could figure out the interface on these to be more like the Headrush or have some kind of touchscreen app, this would be the way to go. But they don't. And for that reason, at $50 less, I think this could be a big contender. Just look at it. You've got that massive LED on the dial on the top left, which will tell you if you're recording, overdubbed, stop, deleting, whatever you're doing. That's really easy to see. And you've got a big screen. Now, it's not a touch screen, or is it? I presume it's not a touch screen if it's that small. But it's a screen nonetheless, and it's easy to read. So you can see that right now the button on the left is for A, and the button on the left is for B. This is a 2-track looper as well. You can use it in 1-track mode where you've got 2 buttons for the looper, or you can use it as a dedicated 2-track looper, and you can attach a passive 2-button foot switch to add that additional control you may need as well. So I really like the idea of this one. It's got those big, easy to press foot switches. It's got the levels that are easy to adjust on top. It's got the clear display. And it's got the encoder, which again, you can press with your foot as an additional button to change modes. Let's check out what I got on the back here. So a mic or guitar in and an instrument in. That's nice. The outputs are not XLR, but they're not on the Boss either. And the external foot switch, which I think will be a must-have, but that's great. You can just attach a passive 2-button foot switch. You can on the Boss as well. There's many similarities here between that Boss pedal and this one. And remember, the Boss pedal does have the extra button, which is nice, but it's a button and not a big plastic. Well, I presume it's plastic. A big foot switch, I should say. I'm not sure if it's plastic or not. But yeah, I think this will be a contender to the Boss RC500. And the big one will be a contender for the Boss RC600. But I just think these big foot switches and the interface on these is so much better. And one reason I don't reach for the Boss every time is the fact that the interface just isn't as good as it could be, let's say. It's not terrible, but all my stuff now is touchscreen. I at least want a nice big display on what I'm using. So for me, this is the one. The big shame, though, with this one is there's no MIDI control by the looks of it, unless I'm wrong. Oh, no, it says MIDI in on the back, so there is MIDI control. That's awesome. Where's that then? Oh, MIDI in. Okay, so it's got a mini MIDI. Great. So I think this is going to be, for me, a contender for the RC500. And I've made many videos about RC500 saying how much I like it. Now, I can't say that for sure. I haven't tried this. I haven't seen the user guide. I don't know what kind of MIDI controls it has compared to the RC500. So don't take that as 100%. But I think this is a really cool introduction. I've been waiting for someone to release a more modern looper onto the market. You've got the Aeros, which is very modern, but they had a lot of things with their firmware that they are now kind of getting around. I hear, I haven't tried one lately, but this this could be the one I recommend. Until now, anyone that wants to get into looping, and more people are now getting into looping, I've been recommending this, but these are currently sold out. This is the Ditto X2. It's a single track looper, very easy to use, very light, battery powered, but they're not available right now. They should be available in a few months' time. I think I would still recommend this at this price and the simplicity of this to get into looping, but you're very quickly going to run out of functionality. You're very, very quickly going to want to upgrade. So I think if it's good, this will be the looper for most people to get. Because just to recap again, you can either use it as a ditto. So left button is record, play, and stop and delete. Great, 2-button looper. That's what you should start with. You can easily switch modes where you've got track A and track B separate, and you can have different modes of that. You can attach the passive 2-button foot switch to it to add 2 more buttons to stop them independently. So you've got 2-button foot switches, loopers, sorry. And you've got the MIDI capability, and you've got the mic input, and it looks like you've got mic and instrument input. So you can put your guitar and your mic in there. Yep, mono in left and mic. Stereo in actually, and stereo out. This, for me, is the most exciting product here. I think this is going to be great. I don't think there's enough modern, affordable loopers on the market, and I think this could be really, really, really cool. So yeah, what do you think? I personally still wish this was built into an all-in-one. Like I always say this, but if my quad Cortex had a looper like this built in, then that could be an amazing looper. It wouldn't have these foot switches, but it could do the job of the big Sheeran looper. And even if it just had a mode with 2 tracks like this in it, it would be amazing. The problem is a lot of these multi-effects pedals like the quad Cortex don't have built-in storage. And that's the other thing with this pedal. It says here that you can record for a long time. You can save loops as well, again, like you can on the Boss. But it's got 90 minutes of time. And it's got 128 presets and loops. So I presume you can save the loop with the preset. So it's 128. So you could also store like backing tracks into those as well. Again, like you can on the Boss. I don't think I missed. Yeah, see, 4.1 gigabyte internal storage. So that's really important. So something like your Helix will never have that because it doesn't have that internal storage for loops built in. And that's why this will be a really cool looper. Oh, the power supply is sold separately. Well, that's a bit naughty. I didn't know that. So they're expecting you to use batteries. I believe the battery life is around 6 hours, which again is very good. If you're busking, open mics, that's going to be great. I don't really know why they don't give you the power supply with it, but I guess they're expecting you to use 4 AA batteries. And I guess it's also, let's face it, it's to keep the cost down, right? Weight is 3.75 pounds, so not particularly light, but definitely compact. Yeah, so for me, this is the star of the show. This is very exciting. I've been waiting for someone to make a more modern looper of this kind, and for me, that's what this is. In my I'm probably not going to switch to this from my Voice Live 3 Extreme. The great thing with the Voice Live 3 Extreme from TC Helicon is that it's about the same weight and also gives me loads of foot switches with loads of functionality, in-ear monitor mix, click tracks, guitar effects, great harmonies, great vocal effects, mixing capabilities, all this other stuff. So this is not an all-in-one. It doesn't claim to be an all-in-one, to be fair. It's called a looper. It's not called an all-in-one. But for anyone looking to add a looper to a pedal board or to their existing rig, or anyone that wants to do the Ed Sheeran thing where they don't need the guitar effects, they want to do everything from their guitar, these are definitely going to be worth checking out. And I'm really glad they've introduced them. I think it's a great move. It's a great move for the industry, and I hope other companies respond, but sadly, not many other companies are making loopers at all. So there you go. All right, let's just see what everyone's saying, and I'm going to wrap things up. Falcon Gunner says the X version looks like, yes. Oh, by the way, yeah, this is the plus. The 2-button is the plus, and then the big one, I think it's 8 switches, is the X. Another product called the X. The X version looks like a seriously powerful recording tool. Probably not for me, but still cool that it's available. That's exactly what I just said. Thanks for the comment. Yeah, it's great that these are available. It's great they've made these. It's great they're offering something for the singer-songwriter. And you're absolutely right. The X version will be great at home just to play backing tracks and jam over. If you want to link up like a quad cortex to the X looper pedal, that will be a heck of a board, right? But it'll be a big board, but it'll be a heck of a board at the same time. David said, who pointed out the order? Yeah, I didn't see that at all. And you also pointed out that I didn't like them much in the Prime. Maybe they've improved them. I almost said fixed. Maybe they've improved them since then. We don't know. Again, and are they in the smaller one? I don't think so. Because how would you control anything? I think the effects are going to be in the bigger unit, and that's why it's substantially more money. Poo Ninja says, looks cool, but more than I need. You know, I feel the same. Like I said, I'm not going to add this to my existing pedal that I use at my shows because my pedal already does this and a lot more as an all-in-one. But this does have a nicer screen, nicer foot switches. This is definitely, for the right person, this is going to be a great way to go for sure. Yeah. I don't want to keep harping on about it, but I was just, once again, hoping it would be an all-in-one, blah, blah, blah. But that's never going to happen. Let's face it. Headrush released the Prime. So there's no way they're going to make a Prime have 4 tracks of looping, because then they won't sell the Sheeran loopers. They want you to buy a Prime and a Sheeran looper and use them together. Of course, that's business, right? I get it. But I am still waiting out for that all-in-one unit. There is MIDI, yeah. I didn't think they would be on the small one, but there is in fact one of those mini MIDI jacks you see there. So it's like a little tiny TRS mini cable to a regular MIDI cable, if you want to use it that way. What you can control with that, I don't know, because once again, I couldn't find a user guide. There's not that much information. When these things come out, often you can't get the user guide day one. You can't get all the facts and info that you need. And also remember, when something like this comes out, it's often better to wait a few weeks or months for them to iron out any firmware issues rather than buy on day one in general. So there's a touchscreen on the X. Yeah, so the X has a touchscreen. The X has all the effects for sure. The small one has a jack for the external foot switch. Yes. So does the big one not have a jack for external foot switch? Because they often do that as well. Often the smaller pedals will have the jack. Like what am I thinking of here? The HX Stomp has a jack for external 2-button foot switch, of course, but the Helix does not, as far as I remember. I guess they assume you don't need the extra foot switches. But for me, it's always a great thing to be able to add on 2 extra buttons to any pedal. Because maybe you want that off to the side. And you have one of those buttons with a topper on it where you just hit it and you know that's a solo, or you want to run it a few feet away for some reason. But that seems to be the way that most people do it. All right, so that's it. I think, I think the star of the show is the 2-button. Like I said, a lot of people ask me for recommendations on looper pedals. A 1-button looper only gets you so far. It can be good on a small compact board where you want something very occasional. If you're performing, the 2-button loopers are always the best, and that's why I think this will be a big seller at $300. Also, the battery power, the nice screen, and everything else. The bigger one is definitely more pro and niche for sure, but will obviously allow you to do a lot more creative stuff with your looping. I wonder if Ed Sheeran will use it himself. That's a big question for me, because he's saying that he's made it to compete with what he uses, and that he does use these. Will he use them on stage? I don't know. Obviously, his custom Chewy board is still a great thing. So, but it'd be interesting to see if he does end up using them himself. So the X has expression pedal, yeah, for the volume, right? Expression pedal, but not for the 2-button switch. The only problem I have with the X is it's clearly got loads of effects in it, but you can't just program it like a pedal board. The great thing with the TC that I use is that you can press a button and go between a guitar layer where you turn on and off your guitar effects, and then you press that and you go back to your vocal layer where you turn on and off your vocal effects. I really like that. And you can also customize any button to do anything. That's just a very unique thing that only TC have really done so far. And again, of course, obviously Headrush don't want to stomp on their other product line, which is the Headrush Prime line, right? Can't believe it doesn't use USB-C. I agree. I totally agree. I totally agree. Look, when you see this big old... I mean, the good thing is that the Quad Cortex uses that, the Kemper uses that, the HX Stomp uses that, so you only got to have one cable. But why aren't all these companies moving over to USB-C? Because we have to get there eventually, right? They are taking a long time to move over, for sure. 2 jacks on the X that aren't labeled, so maybe they're for a foot switch. I'm going to wait till I get hold of the user guide, because this is all very much speculation until then. But I just wanted to give my initial thoughts on this. I might check out the 2 button and just see how, it's good to have something to recommend to people that want to get into looping. And I've been waiting so long for the X2 to become available, and it's just not yet. So I really think this could be a great option for anyone that wants to get into looping. I keep seeing people say they want to get into looping. I don't think enough people do loop. I think looping is an amazing thing for the solo musician. I couldn't do a gig without looping. And I don't do stuff like Ed Sheeran. I'm not beatboxing and laying down keyboard parts and building whole songs like he does. But even just to record your rhythm guitar and then be able to solo over it, especially with my new Cole Clark that I showed you last week with the humbucker, to record a rhythm part and then play some electric stuff over the top of that, it just makes such a big difference. And I personally think it's more interesting, both as the player and the audience. So I think everyone should get into looping. And I'd be interested to know if this is the way forward for anyone that's new to looping to get into it, because I just think those foot switches look great and it looks easy to use. And that's what holds me back from the Boss. It's just not particularly intuitive to use. Keep my looping simple. Yeah, but even if you just use this as a 2-button looper and then think about it, unlike the Ditto, well, no, Ditto you can store loops, but on this you've got the 128, you could potentially store 128 loops as well. It's just really powerful, and it just looks modern. There's nothing modern right now for loopers apart from the Aeros, and again, that's pretty advanced, I feel, for most people. So I think this is great. I'm going to wrap things up because I'm now going to go and do some looping at my gig myself. But let me know in the comments below after the fact of this, once I've posted this video. Let me know if you're interested. Do you think this is a good move? Do you think these loopers are giving you what you need? Were you expecting something else? Let me know in the comments below. I'd be interested to read it. If you're new here, please subscribe and ring the bell. I'd really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video or live stream. Take care and be well. Bye-bye.